Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coffee, Tea, You and Me Live. This is one of our next episodes. We're going to be talking about the fifth and final episode and final installment of our very special topic we've been covering for the last few weeks. Everything you need to know to develop your professional network. Everything you need to know. 20 tips. And we're going to hit the last 5 tips today. Today we're going to be talking about how to make sure that you're collaborating correctly, how to make sure that you build on the frequency and intensity of all of your meetings, how to make sure that you have what we call 360-degree mentoring. We'll explain that, how you tell stories that stick, and how you make sure that you're representing your brand really well so that your representation matters. All this and more coming up next. And listen, for those of you all who are coming into our studio and coming in for the first time, getting a chance to view this, I'm going to make sure that you need the opportunity to like what you see at the content that you see here, and make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on Facebook. Make sure you give me a thumbs up if you're watching on Facebook, and subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube. That's really important, because as we continue to get more metrics and more things going for this particular program, it's going to be really exciting. And we're going to get started in a few minutes right after these messages. Okay, boys and girls, as we promised, we're going to get started with our program right away. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would make sure in the chat as you come in that you feel free to give your elevator pitch, something that's special about your business or entity, anything that you want others to know, or your contact information. Feel free to pitch away, share away. We really want to do that. And as we get more and receive more of those throughout the broadcast, we'll make sure that we announce who you are and where you're coming from and all that kind of good stuff. So definitely put your information in the chat, put everything out there that you want to put out there. In fact, I'm going to start you off with an example, if I can, of my own. And let's see, I'm going to cut and paste and copy that stuff right now. Boom. And I'm going to throw that right over here in the chat for you guys so you can see it coming up. There we go. There's my contact information. There's my little elevator pitch. So if you're seeing this on Facebook, you're probably seeing the whole thing. If you're seeing it on YouTube, you might see it broken up into several different segments. But that's everything you could ever want to know about me, who I am, what I do, how I do it, and why I do it. For those of you who know me know that I am a coach. I'm a business coach. My job is to help entrepreneurs really figure out how to build on their success, how to really get past their hurdles and be strategic about how they use their leadership to overcome obstacles, to make sure that they're gaining as much productivity as possible and that they are doing it in a way that's focused with a tremendous amount of energy. And I've created these systems and tools, and I continue to create systems, tools, and content that make it so easy for them to get over those big hurdles that are causing them to fail, causing them to feel bad about what they do. A good way to think about it is we basically do world-class technologies and training tools that help entrepreneurs and consultants and nonprofit leaders alike to really achieve excellence in whatever their chosen endeavors are. So it's very important. I'd love for you to share anything you're learning, any tips that you're learning. I'd love for you to engage as much as you possibly can in today's content and make sure that, we're doing everything we can to celebrate and honor each other. And so if you're there, hey, Candace, how are you? Candace, do me a favor and put your elevator pitch and where you're coming from in the chat. That's going to be really important because I want people to be able to contact with you. And if you're interested in coming in the studio, Candace, which I would love for you to do if you want to, I will send you a copy of the link that will get you right in the studio so we can introduce everyone to you personally. Maybe you can ask any questions that you have, but you have to let me know if you want to come into the studio. Just let me know you want to come into the studio, and we'll see what we can do to get you the link and get everybody who wants to be in the studio today on camera for everybody to see. You can do that. I'm trying a new thing today. Okay, today's topics. Let's get down to brass tacks. And I'll cover the rules in a little bit. Today's topics are 5 topics we're going to cover today, and these are the 5 last topics of our program on maximizing the value of professional relationships. There are 20 tips that we've covered over the last few weeks, and these are the last 5 of the 20 tips. If you need to go back and check out any of those former programs, probably can go back to program number 1 and just start from right there, and you can catch yourself up. We try to spend a good half an hour to 40 minutes or so just chatting about the information that's here. And in a few coming weeks, we're going to have a friend of mine, and we're going to have some different guest speakers come on. So if you know some great people who are brilliant and have something to add to the small business community, I would love to have them on the show, by the way. And so if there's somebody that you're thinking of, somebody you want to introduce to us, make sure you share the show links with them and have them get in contact with me, either through DM, direct message here on either Facebook or on YouTube, because I'll pretty much find those things. Or you can give them my information that you'll find as the banners are scrolling through on the screen right now. So that's a good thing for you to do. Also, if there is something that I say or do here that you want to have some follow-up information about, don't feel like you can't ask for it. Ask for it. I try to share everything that I possibly can here in Coffee, Tea, You and Me. I don't want to hold anything back or hold anybody back. So let's get right into it. The next 5 steps in maximizing the value of your professional relationship. Step number 1 is you have to learn how to collaborate. You have to learn what collaboration is and how to use it well. I call that segment collaboration, the ultimate we thing. The next one, number 2, is you have to learn how to build on the frequency and intensity of your relationships and in your meetings. You need to make sure that you have that going on. Those 2 key concepts work hand in hand to create magic moments for you and any of your collaborative partners, any of your teams. Number 3, you have to learn and understand what 360 mentoring is all about. 360-degree mentoring means you don't just have several mentors around you. You also have several proteges around you, and you guys are working in a well-coordinated, well-thought-through fashion in order to transfer tremendous skills. We'll get into that. We're also going to talk about stories that stick, not just telling stories for any reason, but telling stories that are meaningful, powerful, passionate, and create lasting memories for people that you're working with. And then we're going to get into representation. What does representation mean, and how do you make representation matter? Okay, so let's get started right off the bat. Collaborating, the ultimate we thing. When you think of collaboration, what are the first things you think about? Don't feel like you can't put that information in chat. Whatever you want, whatever comes to the top of your head, the first thing that comes to the top of your mind, what do you think about when you hear that term collaboration, in terms of what it is that you do and how it is that you need and work with other people to get it done? For me, the first thing I do when I think about collaboration is trying to find power partners, people who can work with me on my major projects that I have coming up in the future, that are way out there. And I try to find those people and identify those people based on the talents and strengths that I think they have, and based on the opportunities to either coordinate with them, share resources with them, information with them, or other people in contacts and communication with them. This is critically important to the concept of collaboration. There's an African proverb that I want to share with you that reminds me of what collaboration is and how important it is. Corey Mosley, who wrote just a wonderful piece that I read in order to prepare for this particular side topic, he wrote that organizations, first an African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Now, Corey wrote this: organizations that collaborate well are likely to be more financially successful and more culturally aligned. Organizations that collaborate well are likely to be more financially successful and more culturally aligned. And we're going to come back to that thought process of cultural alignment in just a second. So I want to make sure you pay attention to that. So there's 7 reasons for you to collaborate. And we find this, we've studied this over and over again. Humans have always studied collaborations and how we work together because we found that it's very, very important. They always say that a tight fist is one of the strongest things on your body if you know how to use it and use it well, right? There's 5 pieces in that tight fist, but once you ball it up and make a tight fist, now you got something, that's very, very blunt instrument that you can use to do some damage, right? So it's very, very important to understand why collaboration is key. 7 reasons why people collaborate. Number 1, it's great opportunities for problem solving. Number 2, it brings people together in a way that no other opportunity can do that. Number 3, it brings helps people learn from each other in a meaningful, powerful, and passionate way. It opens communication in a great opportunity for that. People learn together better, and it boosts morale. Number 5, number 6, there are higher retention rates between leaders and organizations that really understand and use the collaborative mindset, learn how to do that really well. And last but not least, the efficiency of the work is increased tremendously when people learn to collaborate. I got a note here from Candace. I'm going to go ahead and read this. Hello, I'm in Myrtle Beach providing fun and more memorable experiences for my families and friends. I will make sure your vacation stay on the ocean front will exceed your expectations. Okay, Miss Habib. She's selling oceanfront and vacation opportunities. That's great. I love to get out there and play one day. I'm so glad when this COVID-19 stuff is over and I'll feel comfortable actually leaving my little hole here, which is great. All right. The next thing about collaborations is collaborative leaders, they always desire a few things. Number 1, they are desiring of making sure that people feel connected and relevant. If you're not the kind of person whom that is important, you're not going to be good as a collaborative leader. You have to really want people to feel connected and relevant. Number 2, you want to develop a dramatic increase in both the strength and the resilience of your team. Because what's all said and done, that's what collaboration accomplishes: strength and resilience. I can't imagine a leader who would want to have a stronger, more resilient team, with the exception of somebody who needs to get something done really fast. And at that point in time, and it's urgent, at that point in time, it's not, you probably don't have a lot of time to collaborate, because collaboration does take time. Let's be honest. It's not like but if you do it well, you can do it fast as well, but that requires a lot of skill in terms of learning how to develop and how to create a collaborative team in the first place. But once you got a good collaborative team together, man, you can go fast. You can go fast and you can go far. When you collaborate, and these leaders always want, they want to have better engagement and buy-ins. If you need that from your people, if you need that from your team, better engagement, better buy-in, you're going to want to definitely try the collaborative processes. And also, last but not least, but you want to hire, you want to hire people that give and develop more rewards and less failure. So when you bring people onto a collaborative team, you're looking for more rewards, not less rewards. You're looking for more rewards. And you want to have less failure, because there's safety in the numbers. There's safety involved with people working together, knowing each other, really paying attention to each other, loving each other. And when you do that really well, all of a sudden you find that people feel like they can take more risks. They can take more calculated risks and do it with a level of confidence that's really good. A collaborative leader has a few areas of competency. We're going to talk about those that I think you really need to be aware of. Number 1, you need to have a level of social intelligence in order to work in collaborative partnership with other people. If you don't work well with others, if you don't understand empathy, if you don't understand how to help people feel the way you need them to feel, we'll talk a little bit about that later, then you're not going to be a very good collaborative leader. You also have to be very good at behavioral analysis. You have to be able to break down a person's behavior and understand why this behavior might be showing up, whether it's a good behavior or or negative behavior, you want to be able to analyze that behavior and really, really figure that out. You got to be a patient person to be a collaborator, because things are going to go wrong. You need to see those things go wrong, but you need to be excited that, with a strong team, you can make them better. Whatever that is, collaborative leaders are always great when it comes to problem solving, because they realize somewhere in their team and somewhere in their capacity as a group is the ability to solve this problem. You just have to go a little deeper with somebody and you'll figure it out, right? So you need to be patient. And number 4, you got to have an open mind. You simply just cannot be a collaborative leader and be closed-minded. It won't work. There's no way for it to work. The platform on which collaboration works most isn't that platform of discovery. It's in that platform of creativity and innovation. Is where people find and meet something special in each other, and they provide the support and what's needed to make that special idea or concept grow. I know many of you probably have had leaders, people that you've worked with, who could care less that you had a talent or an ability of some type. And a collaborative leader would never be that way. A collaborative leader wants to know what is everything that's on the table that my people have that we could share and move forward with and create. Even if it's something that's sort of off-brand in terms of what the purpose of the organization is, but also a lot of fun and it helps build morale and strength within the organization, that's going to be good stuff. So if you got a talent or a gift that you're not sharing in a collaborative environment, then I feel sorry for you, because you're probably suffering greatly under the lack of the necessary attention to know that you're doing something and you have something meaningful and powerful and something relevant to share with the universe. So I think that's a key to really get there. Now, how do you practice as a collaborator? How do you do this? How do you make this happen? What skills should you develop? What talent should you nurture within yourself? One, you've got to be good. You got to be willing to, in order to really get there, you got to be willing to volunteer to collaborate on long-term projects with people that, you have a sense that there's something special about them. There's something wonderful about them. Because in doing that, in making that commitment, you're going to begin the process of building trust and respecting each other. I want you to try, when you're thinking about your collaborative teams, I want you to try a process called brainwriting versus brainstorming up front. Now, we all know brainstorming is a way to get ideas out of people and move things forward, move concepts forward, move strategies and product development, all that kind of stuff forward. It all starts with brainstorming typically. But I want you to try a technique called brainwriting. You'll have to look it up. I'll provide you some links maybe a little later on in the talk about what brainwriting is and how do you use it. But brainwriting takes away all of the problems that are inherent and associated with brainstorming. Brainstorming is fraught with problems, especially for introverts, because when you put introverts together in a brainstorming session, you're not going to get a lot of information because they don't want to talk. They don't want to share what they know. They want to find out what other people know, because that adds to their knowledge, and they're more about trying to figure things out and gather knowledge than they are about sharing it. So it's very, very important when you're working with a bunch of introverts that you try a technique that's going to undercut their natural tendency to shut down, especially if you're working with people who are shy or people who are, they're not necessarily as confident as you'd like them to be. And so they're hesitant to share their ideas and thoughts. But brainwriting gets every good idea out on the table and keeps away from all of the threats that people would normally have in social circumstances. So try brainwriting. It's really good. Also, set regular meetings up with your team. Set regular meetings up with people that you're going to collaborate with. You need to be meeting with them once every, I would say 1 to 3 weeks, and in a consistent pattern, so that people can put it in their calendars and put it in the schedule. They know they're going to have a meeting, a follow-up meeting, another follow-up meeting, another follow-up meeting, another follow-up meeting. And in those meetings, what are you doing? You're reporting in to what you're bringing to the table. You're reporting into resources that you find, resources that you can share, information and connections that are all valuable. But more importantly, you're using the peer coaching model. You are trying to make sure that the talents and gifts that you have to share get an opportunity to shine, and the talents and gifts that other people have to share get an opportunity to shine. That's going to grow the whole collaborative effort much better than if you just assumed or took everything for granted. You never want to take people for granted. Your collaborative leaders never do that. You're going to want to read, discuss, and share all relevant information whenever appropriate. don't hold anything back from your collaborative partners, because when they figure out that you didn't give them everything, or you didn't share everything with them, or you were holding back on them because you were hesitant for some reason, that's going to cause a problem in your relationship. So you want to make sure that you're as upfront as you possibly can. And when you even when you aren't upfront, share that. Say, you know what, I love to share this with you, but I don't think I'm ready to share it with you right now for these reasons. Because nothing is worse than, you know, being in a collaboration when somebody is just not giving it the time, the effort, the energy, the resources, the talent, whatever that they need to bring to the table in order to make that happen. They're not fully engaged, and you want to, as best you can, be as fully engaged. And when you can't be, you want to make sure that your partners know what's missing. Maybe you've got, you know, too many competing things going on to give this your full attention, or maybe you are just need to strengthen some areas before you feel like you can really give it your full attention. I don't know what it is, but as long as you're open and honest about it, people can see that, receive it, and accept it. But if you start to, you know, twist in the wind, I'm not sure about that, you start making excuses, now all of a sudden, because you're trying to hide something, you know, you create the three negative things that can never be do well in relationships, like blame, shame, and fear. You don't want those things. So in order to kill them, you got to bring truth and honesty and integrity to the table. All right. So building on frequency and intensity, that's the next level of what we need to do. Think about creating powerful professional relationships. And I love this quote from Dr. Covey, who said, "Quality time with people is found inside of quantity time with people." Basically, if I haven't spent the time to get to know you, then it's literally impossible for me to trust you. And if I don't trust you, we're just not going to have a good time. It's not going to work. And if you want quality time for people, you're going to have to be willing to spend quantity time with people. And that means, like I said earlier, in the collaborative process, right? You want to get together. We're going to be regular about that getting together. You want to share information with each other. I mean, even the Bible says this, and I love this, because, you know, human beings have been discovering how to build professional relationships and relationships in total since the very, very beginning, because we've always had work that needed to get done, no matter how you slice it. And even the Bible says it's important for us to encourage one another. It's important for us to build one another up, to encourage one another and to build one another up. So what does it take for you to be willing to encourage someone else? What do they have to show you? How do they have to inspire you? What has to happen in order for you to volunteer, for you to jump in and go, you know what, I want to encourage you. I want to build you up. You have to think about those things and really write them down. I take a lot of my clients through this exercise, and I ask them, you know, what does it take for you to give someone the kind of trust that you need to give them in order to elevate them, in order for them to grow? And that's a humdinger of a question. A lot of people don't know how to answer it. But when you begin to think about the roles that you play and the things that you do in your life, you can figure out, like, wait a minute, I will trust that someone is a good father if I see these things. You know, I will trust that someone is a good communicator if I see these things. I will trust that someone is good at whatever their role or profession is if I see these things. And if you can demonstrate and articulate those things, and you can say to them, listen, I want you to get the most trust that you possibly can get from me, but here's what I need to see from you. Boom, 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 boom. Is it possible for these things to happen? Is it possible for us to see it, or am I barking at the wrong tree? You can figure out fairly quickly, are you going to be in a great relationship with this person or not, by just identifying what it's going to take to trust them and what it's going to take for you to give them your trust. Does that make sense? And so I think it's very, very important. If you haven't done the trust matrix exercise with somebody, haven't figured it out, you should try it, because it's a very, very good exercise, especially with somebody that you think you should be collaborating with. You know, you should be talking about how we develop trust and with each other. By the way, we got some new people on the call. If you like, I love it if you could put your contact information in the chat. So tell us who you are, where you're from, anything you want to put, your elevator speech or your personal pitch. You know, go ahead and put that in the chat box, and you know, people who can, maybe we can see you. And if you want to come into the private room and ask a question, I will give you the code to be behind the scenes, and then you could come into the private room, and then we can put you on camera, and we can we can work from there. So I'm open and friendly. I just want to make sure that's out there for people. Okay. 5 factors that you need to bring to professional relationships anytime you want to start meeting with someone, start engaging in that frequency and intensity to maximize that, right? You have to have mutual respect for each other. Number 1, you got to be able to communicate effectively and willingly, and you have to do that regularly. Can't have one-offs, talk to you every once in a while. You have to have regular systems of communication. You have to have trust. You have to have trust, and you have to be willing to build in terms of increasing the intensity of the trust. You need diversity. Diversity is where you get the best ideas from people who are different perspectives, that don't necessarily look like you, don't come from the same places you come from, don't think like you, don't have, maybe even in cross or supportive industries. Very, very important that you have diversity. Number 5, you got to be mindful. You got to be aware of how this person is doing, how they're feeling, what things that you can do to encourage them to move their emotional framework to a higher level, a higher frequency, a higher intensity, and what things that might be lacking that you're not doing in the same regard. The better you are at this, the smarter things are going to happen, the better things are going to happen for you and for the person, right? The next thing you want to do when it comes to understanding how to do this frequency is you want to have a practice. You want to have well-established practices of working with small groups and meeting with regularly. We talked about that. You want to use video. Use as much as this can. Like this video stuff that we're doing, man, it allows you to have some of the best communication with people because you can see their facial expressions and you can see their gestures and you can understand what they're thinking, and you can see, because most of the communication that we receive from people is nonverbal. And so you want to make sure that you get a chance to engage as fully as possible with people. If it's not face-to-face, try to make it a Zoom call, try to make it a duo call, or some of the whiz-bang technology we have out there to allow you to video conference people. Very, very good stuff, very, very important stuff to try to use, and you can't be scared of it. You just got to dig into it and figure it out. I love it when somebody introduces me to a new tool. All of my friends, they'll do that consistently, and all of a sudden I'm learning something new, and I'll dig into it because I want to grow, I want to learn, and I don't want to be irrelevant, right? So it's very, very important that you try to stay on top of that. Seek and encourage outside perspectives. Very, very important. If you have a perspective, or if you want to develop something and grow, the best way to do it is to put yourself in the shoes and the perspective of another person in the same path, and try to see if you can see this the way they see it, or understand it the way they understand it, and it's going to add to the dimension and the depth of what you're dealing with and what you're doing. I love that process. It's very interesting to see people go through that when they start to mirror their voice inflections, and everything starts to kind of sync up, and they're with each other in a meaningful, powerful way. It's crazy. Seek opportunities to meet. Don't run away from opportunities to work with people, to fellowship with them, because you're going to find that in that, even if you don't feel like it, if you have a purpose, which is to find people to work with, people to collaborate with, then you're going to find people and you're going to fall in love with each other, and you're going to find ways to connect with each other and find ways to share your purposes and passions and support each other. But if you sit at home and you don't come out, you don't get on a Zoom call, you don't come out to play, you don't learn, then I think that it's going to be difficult for you. It's going to be difficult for you, more difficult than it has to be. It just doesn't take much. Just clean your act up and turn on your video conferencing technology and start calling people, and sharing information and ideas especially things that you have an expertise in and a lot about. Let's talk about one of my favorite topics, which is 360-degree mentoring. Like I told you earlier, mentoring up and down, right? It's about mentoring people, that having people become your protege as well as you become the protege for other people. And I'm not saying that you choose one person to be a mentor to. Or protege for, choose several, because you have several roles, and there's a level of intensity you need to bring to each of your roles, in terms of your skill development in every particular area. And everybody knows that I'm a coach, right? So I have several coaches who mentor me, and From them, I learned different aspects of our industry. I learned different aspects of our industry, and I learned how to do things differently than I might naturally come up with by myself. No matter how many books or tapes I read, it is the perspective of other people that helped. So I'm going to suggest that you get yourself a core group of mentors, that 3 to 5 mentors, right? That help you fulfill and grow and build skills in whatever roles that are important to you. I'm looking forward to recruiting a new mentor to help me become even a better husband than I am right now. I think I'm a pretty good husband. At least my wife would say I'm a pretty good husband. But if I can find somebody, say, it's 10 years older than me and has been married 10 years longer than me, I think there's probably some lessons that I can learn from that person. And if anything, we might be able to share some ideas and concepts that would help both of us. And it'll help me by being a protege. It would help him by being a mentor submit what he actually knows. Submit, he or she, right? Well, I guess she couldn't help me be a better husband. I don't know, but we'll work on it. But I think it takes a lot to really grow in anything you want to grow in. And I suggest that every 10 years you look for somebody who's 10 years in the game, whatever game you're trying to play, and get them to be your mentor. And you look for someone who's 10 years behind you and become their mentor, so they can become your protege. And the more you do that, the more you're going to see a lot of benefits. Let me tell you what they might be. Because you're sharing so much, your mentors will grow in their skills, in their interpersonal leadership practice with working with you. You might have a mentor who could be so much better at what they do, but they just don't have the confidence yet because they really haven't had a chance to try their leadership talents out on anyone else. But you're stepping in to be their protege, and they get to practice on you, right? And you get to tell them the straight poop, this is working for me, this is not working for me. I was looking for more of this and versus that. And they get to become better leaders, better strategic thinkers, better behavior at their behavior analysis, better at understanding what might be going wrong in their current occupation or their current leadership foundation that's not really well, and they're going to figure that out by working with you. And so you're doing them a great favor by accepting your role as their protege. And once you get your pride out of the way and recognize that everybody has something that they can deliver for you, everybody has some skill that they can transfer to you, you have to look for it, though. You have to be a sort of a talent scout. You have to be willing to connect and identify what the gifts are that a person has, and then figure out, do you want to share? Do you not want to share what that is? It's important that you train with others in every role that you play, because the more you do it, the more you can bounce off each other, the more you can grow together. You can't tell me that growing up with Venus did not help Serena Williams. Of course it did. Of course it did, to have somebody else, who was a little older, a sister in this case, who was right there next to her, just pushing her along, providing her a bigger example. If she hadn't had Serena to bounce off of, would she still be a great tennis player? Maybe. But definitely, because those years of intense working out together, and still they do it. They still play together. They still work out together. It's very, very important to developing higher and higher skills, because when you're working out with people and you're practicing people that you trust, things can go a long way fast for you in terms of skill development, and skill transfer, and the accountability of it all. It works really, really well. So the better you get at this 360-degree mentorship process, the more you are able to transfer and help others, and then solidify your skills in that leadership role. And the more you listen to others who are in front of you, the more you help them solidify their skills. And so it works really, really well. What you can't do is be a taker. You can't just be a taker from a mentor and not share it with a protege, because then you're going to stop the process. You're going to, instead of being a part of the process of the forward flow of human history, you're going to be a problem for the forward flow of human history. And you want to be on that on that positive side, right? So go ahead and pick up, every time you pick up a new mentor, pick up a new protege. And there's usually somebody who's waiting in the wings and would love for you to sprinkle a little bit of your love and attention on them, and they would appreciate that. So go ahead and do that. The next element we're going to talk about today is stories, sticky stories. How do you tell sticky stories? Because it's very important that, you understand the magic of story, because when you can tell great stories, not only do you grab people's attention, you create lasting memories. All you have to do is follow this timeless, proven process, and you will create memories and grab lots of attention. Before we get into the process, though, I want to tell you some things about storytelling, and I want to ask you, why should anybody pay attention to you? What's in it for them? Do you know? If you're going to talk for a minute or 2 minutes to another person or group of people, a person may ask you, well, what is it that you do? What is it that you are sharing with them in that 60 to 120 seconds that's going to be memorable, meaningful, and powerful? Because I got a feeling if you don't have an impact in that very small window of time, you might not get an opportunity to develop what could come next in this potential relationship. And so you want to create lasting memories. If you do that, you got to follow this kind of timeless process. Number one, you got to do some great character development. You got to make people identify in their brain with the person, the character that you're talking about. This is why this person has to have some demographic information that can easily be visualized. When you're telling a story about a person, you want to give that person a name. You want to give that person an area or a space in which they live, some understanding of how they live, maybe how many children they have, how long they've been married, what kind of car they drive, their style, there's something about them. You got to give us at least 3 to 5 demographic descriptions to really click in our brain that this is a person that we can either identify with, we can understand and identify, because we have enough information to begin that process. Because you want us ultimately to feel for this person when the drama ensues. Because yes, that's the second aspect. There must be some drama that in the narrative affects the character that you're talking about in your story. That's right about now, people go, well, what if I'm telling a story about me? No, you're not, is the answer that I'm going to give you. You're never telling a story about you, because your story only matters with people who already care about you. Or if your story is to find a way to make them care about you, then that's what your story needs to be about. But if your story is about having them do something other than care about you, then you don't tell a story about you. Even if you're telling a story about something you did or experienced, the story is about the character experiencing what you did or experienced. You'll get where I'm coming from in just a second. The next aspect of the story, after the drama ensues, there must be a resolution. If there's no resolution to a story that you're telling, and there's a lot high drama and a lot of problems and issues that were solved, or issues, right? If those issues weren't resolved, they weren't solved by anything or anybody, then what happens is that's a horror story. That's a story that's meant to leave people feeling, yes, like all stories, but bad, not good. That's not gonna let them feel uplifted. It's gonna make them feel horrified. It's gonna make them feel bad, which, if you're telling a horror story and the goal is to help people feel bad, then it's a good story. But if the goal is to help them feel good and have them do something wonderful, maybe you're not going to get there with a horror story that doesn't have a resolution. Even a horror story can be great if it has a resolution. If it doesn't, sometimes they don't have, the person just gets away with murder. Never found, never caught, or anything like that. It's just a horror story, right? So think about that. Because when you tell a story that works, the last thing the person wants to hear or needs to hear is who deserves the credit for this wonderful story. And that's when you matter, because if you're the storyteller, they need to know who you are. They need to know what your name is. They need to know why you're telling the story. They need to know what you want them to do with this information. They need to know why it's relevant. People ask me all the time, so what do you do? I said, well, I help small businesses get their act together and do smart things. Let me tell you a story. When I first met Jamie was an insurance professional, had been in the business for about 10 years, had developed a team, and, he was doing really well. His wife, though, expected a lot more in terms of financial reward from this opportunity, because, as a person who had to spend most of his evenings and weekends working with other people, he didn't get a chance to spend a lot of time at home and with his family and his children. And it made him miserable, because here it was that it was something that, he felt like, he had to be on call 24/7 to really, really be good at what he was doing, and to work with his other team members and to help them develop cases and do all kinds of stuff. And so it was very difficult for him to have what quote unquote a normal family life, which is what he promised his wife when he married her. So he had to figure out a way to make this business work and to make and help them and be well with his two children, and be able to take them to games and be their coaches and do all the things that, you want dads to be able to do, make sure they get there where they need to go, and participate with them and engage with them. And he felt like he was missing out on all that stuff. He was really thinking about closing up shop and just changing careers altogether, starting from scratch all over again. Somebody said, well, maybe you should look at a coach. And he's like, that's really some soft stuff. I don't really agree with that. I don't really want a coach. I don't really want anybody, in my business and in my personal life and all that kind of stuff. I really don't want to do that. And the person said, well, it's really not like that. So he did his homework. He checked me out and several other coaches, and he looked at my LinkedIn profile, saw that I was, more than qualified and had a ton of references, and decided to give me a call, and he did. He said, my friend recommended you, and I looked at your LinkedIn profile, see that you're really, and I'm thinking about bringing you on as a coach. After I told him what I did, he was hesitant because, he didn't want to do it in the first place. But he decided to bring me on. And I worked with him for, using my 90-day process for just 3 months. And in 3 months, we had him set up so that he knew how to take his business to the next level and not have to give up his evenings and weekends anymore and quadruple his income. I want to meet people like that. I want to meet people. My name is Coach Powell. I work with entrepreneurs and small business professionals who are licensed to do what they do. And I want to meet more of them. So if you know people who are in that vein, I'd love for you to have them pick up the phone, give me a call, shoot me an email, text message, DM, whatever. I will make sure that I take care of them. That's my elevator speech. You could do it 60 seconds or less. If you practice, if you understand the pace, the rhythm of great stories, if you know how to tell a great story, if you understand the rhythm and the balance of it, and you can do it really well. If you can't, let me teach you. I have a program I call the 5 elements of a wonderful story, and I'll be more than willing to share it with you. All you gotta do is ask me for it. So throw me a little direct message here in the chat, whether it's going to be really seeing this on YouTube or on Facebook, and I'll respond. I'll let you have the program for free. Is that amazing or what? So there's a lot of opportunities there for people who pay attention. The last thing I want to tell you today is about representation. This whole notion of representing, what does that mean when you think about it? When you represent something, what does it mean? Who are you representing when you're in business for yourself? Are you representing you or the business or both? Are you representing where you come from what area you live in? Are you representing, your family, your background, your cultural? These are all things that have some level of representation in you. But what is it that you want to come forward, and how? I think a part of representing yourself well, no matter where or how, whatever you want to represent, means you have to get over a couple things. And one of the things you got to get over is bias. Everybody has it, and there's a bias associated with you. I know some of you all may feel like, well, I'm not one of those, whatever one of those is, right? But even if you're not one of those, if you're not Black, if you're not a female, if you're not a minority of some type, if you don't have a disability, you're not a veteran, there's nothing that, makes you qualified to be a so-called minority, guess what? You're still somebody who has to deal with the bias of other people. Other people have an idea or concept of what they think you are before you even open up your mouth. They see you and they go, ha, I understand that. Now, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with that processing part of our brain that automatically assumes and assigns a characteristic or an idea or concept to others. What's wrong is if we follow up on it with our actions and our deeds. Because the biases allow us to make assumptions, and the assumptions are usually incorrect because every individual has their own personal characteristics, their own personal value system, their own beliefs, their own way of contributing to our world and our society. And if you're truly, truly interested in dealing with your own personal bias, then the first thing you can do is start to engage with someone who you've already put into a category and start to ask questions that help expose their character and their competence in a way that's going to help elevate what we call trust. There's a lot to what I just said, but just understand that people who want to correctly behave with others without allowing their biases to get in the way do a couple things really, really well. Number one, they're committed to facing the challenge of their own bias. Number two, they want to create new branding opportunities and new realities in relationships with people. They're not wanting to hold on to the old. They don't want to make it great again. They want it to be greater tomorrow than it is today, right? So they're thinking about the future, and they're understanding that every tomorrow is built on the actions of today. And so you have to do what you need to do today correctly in order to experience a more positive tomorrow. They don't shirk that responsibility. Number three, they're willing to replace their old ideas or recycle them in a new way. Number four, they have vision. And if you want to change whatever bias someone else might have of you, and they have them, you got to envision first and foremost for yourself, what is it that you want to be, do, and have when you grow up? What is it that you want to be, do, and have in the future? What were you called for? What are you called to do? Who are you called to be? If you can figure that out, if you can work on that, and that's about the mindfulness practice we may have talked about in a previous episode. But once you start to develop and understand who you are and where you enter, then you can begin to look at your trajectory and look forward and go, okay, I want to get here. It's all said and done. I want these goals. I want these ideas. I want these concepts to be a part of my life. In order to do that and be that, express that, and experience that, I've got to start to work on me now, right? You need feedback from other people. You need connection and engagement with other people in order to get there fast. Other than that, you'll be fumbling around in the dark by yourself. You won't have enough information to even know that what you're doing is relevant, what you're doing is meaningful, what you're doing has some significance. There's two things about bias I want you to know. They either reinforce a bias through engagement, or you challenge it with engagement. If you're engaging with people who think like you, look like you, come from the same places you are, you're probably going to reinforce your biases more than you're going to challenge them. But if you're engaging with people who are different, right, in any way, then what's going to happen is you get to challenge your bias, and you get to confront it, and you get to deal with it in real terms. You get to ask and engage in meaningful, powerful questions. I'm going to take you there, right? Now, I'm going to warn you. Too much negative reinforcement of your bias is going to cause a whole lot of future anxiety. Some of you might be experiencing it right now. You might be thinking, I don't know why I feel so stressed, why I feel so anxious. It's not just COVID-19. It's that I'm alone, and I'm having to experience that I don't have the connections I should have with other people. And it's not like people aren't willing to connect with you. It's just that you convinced yourself earlier on through your own reinforcement of your own biases that the people out there who don't want to talk to you, don't want to be with you, don't care about you, don't like you because of whatever characteristics you think they have. That's what bias does to you. It makes you isolated. It makes you eventually only available for people who are, so to speak, in your tribe. And that's the kiss of death, because there's no more innovation. There's no more sharing of anything that's going to provide any level of excitement or interest. It's going to be the same old rubber stamp situation. And if you were a machine, that would work really well, but you're not. You're a person. You're a person that's destined to grow, destined to share, destined to be a part of something special, but you have to allow that destiny to happen. And how you do it is by confronting the bias. When it comes to working with other people, if you're not willing to do this, you're not brave enough to do this, it's not going to be good for you. You're not going to work well with others. Your reputation and your brand is established when you confront and deal with issues related to your bias. You can decide how you want to do it. But one of the best ways I think you should do it is to work backwards. Like I said earlier, think about what you want to be, do, or have. Then ask, how can I represent the highest values and behavior that are required for me to represent well, to be, do, and have the things that I want to do? And then begin to put in the learning and the mentorship and the sponsorship and the resources that you're going to need to have in order to engage in those behaviors safely. All of this must be done with a tremendous level of empathy. And it's going to be a test of your character. You're going to have to make some commitments that maybe you haven't made in the past. But you have to make some new commitments with a renewed vigor and energy. And again, you do that by finding accountability partners, by getting your right mentorship processes started, by making sure that you have an advisory council and other things. You have to work with people to do this. And although it can be quite invigorating to start out with just a plan, I will tell you, if your plan isn't a plan that came out of a collaborative effort with other people involved that don't look like you, that don't necessarily share your same thoughts and ideas, but don't come from the same industry, then you're going to be missing something in your plan. And that enough stuff, you're going to know that. Inherently, you're going to know that you don't know what you need to know to move forward, and you're not going to execute that plan well, because you're not going to have the confidence that is required or is needed to make things happen that way you want them to happen. So that's today's Coffee Tea, You and Me. I hope you guys had a good time. I know I did. If you want to join us and participate in other parts of our program in the future, feel free to join me on Facebook, or to DM me and connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much available everywhere. I'll put all those links in the show notes. If there's anything we talked about today that you want to follow up on, or you want to have an idea or concept about, feel free to DM me again. My information is flashing across the screen. I hope you're subscribed, and I had fun. I hope you did too. God bless you, and have a wonderful